The room is quiet. Not dramatically quiet, just the kind of quiet that exists after midnight, when objects stop asking for meaning. A screen glows. A chair holds a body that hasn't moved much today. Outside, something ordinary continues. Cars, lights, a neighbor closing a door. Nothing looks broken, and that is the problem. This is the first deception of invisible burnout. From the outside, nothing appears urgent. From the inside, nothing ever truly rests. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't announce itself through collapse. No missed deadlines, no emotional outbursts, no visible crisis. Instead, it hides inside people whose minds never fully shut down, whose inner systems continue running long after the body has gone still. Intj, Infj, Infp, and Intp types are particularly familiar with this kind of fatigue. Not because they are weaker, but because their exhaustion does not travel through muscle or motion. It travels through cognition, through meaning, through internal pressure, through constant silent processing. This is not the burnout of doing too much. It is the burnout of carrying too much without discharge. And it cycles, quietly, predictably, until something fractures. Invisible burnout does not begin with stress. It begins with uninterrupted internal activity. For INTJ, INFJ, INFP, and INTP types, rest is often mistaken for inactivity. But inactivity does not stop cognition. The body lies still. The mind reorganizes, replays, anticipates, refines. This is the earliest stage. You are technically resting, but psychologically still working. Thoughts don't feel heavy yet. They feel purposeful, necessary, even elegant. But there is no true off switch. And over time, even meaningful processing becomes friction. For the INTJ, burnout begins as efficiency. The mind continues optimizing long after the task is complete. Systems are reviewed. Decisions are re-simulated. Future contingencies are mapped. It doesn't feel like stress. It feels like responsibility. The problem is not workload. It is mental uptime. NI keeps projecting forward. TE keeps refining execution. There is no emotional noise to signal overload, only a growing sense that nothing is ever finished enough to be left alone. Control becomes vigilance. Clarity becomes rigidity. And eventually, the system you built to reduce chaos becomes the source of it. This is where the first fracture forms. What once felt like mastery now feels like obligation. For the INFJ, the cycle begins relationally. Emotional data never stops arriving. Even in solitude, conversations continue internally. Unspoken tensions are processed. Future emotional outcomes are predicted. And I synthesizes meaning. FE monitors impact. The exhaustion doesn't come from people. It comes from holding people internally. The INFJ often doesn't notice burnout because empathy masks it. Care continues. Understanding deepens. But the emotional field becomes saturated. There is no dramatic breakdown, only a gradual thinning of presence, a sense of being everywhere except inside oneself. The fracture arrives quietly, the realization that emotional insight no longer brings connection, only weight. For the INFP, burnout does not look like overthinking. It looks like erosion. FI continuously evaluates internal alignment. NE introduces alternatives, possibilities, imagined paths. Each decision carries moral weight. Each compromise leaves residue. The exhaustion is not loud. It is existential. Meaning is constantly recalibrated. Identity is subtly questioned. Values are defended internally even when no one is attacking them. Over time, conviction becomes tension. The fracture appears as numbness, not because values are gone, but because they've been overused without rest. When everything matters, nothing recovers. For the INTP, burnout begins as saturation. Patterns accumulate, questions multiply, frameworks expand. TI refines. NE explores. The mind never stops modeling reality. At first, this feels stimulating, then neutral. Then heavy. The shift is subtle. Curiosity becomes obligation. Thinking stops being exploratory and starts being circular. The fracture is cognitive exhaustion, not confusion but loss of momentum. Not, I don't understand, but I don't want to process this anymore. And that indifference is deeply unfamiliar. After prolonged inner motion comes detachment. Not the dramatic kind, the functional kind. You still perform. You still respond. You still appear composed. But something has pulled back. Emotions are acknowledged but not metabolized. Thoughts are observed but not resolved. This is where invisible burnout becomes dangerous because it improves functionality in the short term. Distance creates efficiency. Numbness reduces friction. And because nothing looks wrong, nothing gets addressed. You make coffee. You answer a message. You sit through a meeting. Someone says, "You seem fine." You agree. And technically, you are. This is not collapse. This is prolonged containment. Every INXX type experiences burnout as a contradiction. The very strength that defines the type becomes the mechanism of exhaustion. INTJ, strategic control becomes relentless self-surveillance. INFJ, emotional attunement becomes chronic emotional occupancy. INFP, moral depth becomes continuous inner conflict. INTP, intellectual curiosity becomes cognitive stagnation. What feels like depth is often uninterrupted engagement. What feels like commitment is often inability to disengage. This is the accusation hidden inside invisible burnout. You didn't rest because you believed stopping would cost you your identity. The fracture is not explosive. It arrives as a small internal shift. Decisions feel heavier than they should. Insights no longer energize. Silence feels crowded rather than calm. You are not exhausted enough to stop. Not functional enough to feel alive. This is the liminal zone where many INXX types remain for years, because it doesn't hurt enough to demand change. But it drains enough to alter perception. Invisible burnout is not caused by sensitivity. It is caused by lack of cognitive closure. INXX types are not tired because they think deeply. They are tired because they rarely finish internally. Thoughts trail. Emotions loop. Systems remain open. Rest requires closure. Not sleep. Not isolation. Closure. And that is precisely what dominant introverted functions resist. Eventually, burnout stops feeling like tiredness and starts feeling like distance from self. You recognize your patterns but don't feel housed inside them. You know what matters, but motivation is abstract. This is not depression. It is not laziness. It is identity fatigue. The self has been operating without downtime. Regeneration for INXX types is not about doing less. It is about interrupting internal continuity. For INTJ, allowing inefficiency without correction. For INFJ, disengaging from emotional interpretation. For INFP, letting values rest without defense. For INTP, stopping analysis without replacement. This feels wrong, unproductive, even dangerous, which is why most don't do it. Invisible burnout does not ask loudly for attention. It waits until you mistake endurance for stability. The unsettling truth is this: many INXX types are not burned out because life is too demanding. They are burned out because their inner world never learned how to end a process, and awareness of that doesn't heal anything immediately. It just removes the illusion that nothing is happening. The room is still quiet. The screen still glows. But now you know the silence isn't empty. And knowing that doesn't make it easier to stay here.